Welcome to another series about my coloring book collection, and today we will talk about beautiful ladies and some dark heroes. You know that I'm not a big fan of coloring portraits. I much more prefer to color people in full height, when face is small, but when you can color interesting clothes, jewelry, hairstyle, armor for men, and when they are in interesting interiors or surrounded by beautiful landscapes. And I particularly love to color everything about fairy tales or mythology, and that's where we will start from Kolorowanka. I have here goddesses, and for me, for now, it's one of my favorite books. I'm still very confused why one of the most beautiful Kolorowanka books, they stopped to produce it. Now they started to make much more simplified books in totally different style. Yeah, maybe they discovered that such books are more popular, but I feel very sad that such a beauty now it's unavailable for those who want to purchase it. I think that you can't purchase it either as paper or digital one. But I was lucky to purchase it in time, and slowly by surely I color in all parts of it. We have here Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology, Celtic and Northern. So let me show you in order. Of course, it took me some time to adjust to the paper. Paper is far from my favorites. Thin and soft and with this black underpaint, which really unhelpful when you do marker background. But now when I adjusted to it, I even managed to color with budget pencils. But still, my favorite method is to use alcohol markers for quick background, and then for the main image I usually combine polychromasis as the main art supply, and then to prevent visible pencil strokes I blend with softer pencils, sometimes with Prismacolors, sometimes with Derwent drawings. On the skin I usually use Derwent drawings, on other areas Prismacolors as blenders. So here we have Demeter from Greek mythology. I'm always afraid to do a very complicated shading on skin in this book, but even with one or two layers, I think that I did, well, presentable work. I know that my faces, they look flat, as they are far from real portraits, but for me that's okay, because mostly I enjoy doing everything we have around face, like hair or headpiece, interesting pieces of armor, so I don't care much if skin or face looks not very perfect. Here I have Alena, and yeah, I enjoyed every moment of doing this one. I'm very proud how I did metal in different colors than her. I especially decided to add a little bit of blue here to show that maybe he has some magical armor, and then I supported this blue color by adding it a little bit to the other pieces. And I decided that this gray simple background would be the better contrast to her figure, especially with this very bright red flame. So I remember that when I finished it, I was extremely proud of myself, and it's not very often thing which happens to me. Sometimes I notice some imperfections, but here, especially considering paper, I think that I managed to do the best I could. And it's all polychromos pencils and gray markers to cover the background. You can clearly see where the marker is. In this book I actually want to color all pictures. It's not very often thing which happens to me, but this one I would love to finish. And you know, even if I would have only one book in my collection, this one, I would be totally happy to color only here. Yes, it's actually nice to switch sometimes to better paper, but if pictures are so beautiful, I don't mind to color in only one book. So here we have Nemesis I especially wanted to make this contrast between her peaceful look, all those feathers, and then contrast with flame. I wanted her heat-on dress to look almost transparent white, but with some yellow reflections from the fire. I think that it's actually nice, and it's a good contrast with more dark, fiery wine red background. Here I have Hestia, where the whole background I did with markers. Again, her dress. It was very interesting for me to try somewhere this color combo from violet into mulberry into purple color, and I decided that this one could be a really good picture to test this color combo. So I think that actually it worked well, especially with this beautiful frame with clematis flowers. Very beautiful composition, I enjoyed it. This one I did with Prismacolors. Prismacolors are also okay on this paper. It's just easier for me to do skin with polychroma, so that's why I select them more often. But this Tia, she is blind and she is distributing wells. Very interesting idea. And this book also helps you to refresh your knowledge about mythology. For me, it's also another advantage of this book. Iris, I really love how I did this rainbow, and most of all I enjoyed doing her metal part of her wings. I wasn't able to decide, do I want her wings to be made from soft feathers or from gold, so in the end I simply decided to use both ideas. Then we start here the Egypt mythology, which had to wait for a long time. I did many pictures already in Celtic, Northern, Greek mythology, but nothing in Egyptian part. Then I started to color here, and actually my first attempts, they wasn't very successful, because here, apart from markers, I used Black Widow pencils for skin tone, and then some of the Castle Art pastel tints, and they felt dry and not very pigmented on this paper. So indeed, with this one I had big problems with paper. I felt disappointed and unhappy that my first page in Egyptian chapter of the book started from such unsuccessful project. But then I started to work on other pictures. Here my favorite part on her is her green dress. When I color pictures here, I try to stay in color palette which we can see on Tutankhamun tomb decoration, on jewelry, or paintings which we can see inside of the Egyptian temples. So I was limited in color palette, but I think that even with such limited colors, everything looks nice. It was interesting to work on the highlights, on the folds, on the fabric. She is beautiful herself, and of course her headpiece is something unreally beautiful. It's sad that I don't know the name of the artist, because I would say that artist who created this book, he's insanely talented. I do love compositions here, how everything is nicely done, and faces, clothes, all secondary details, so nicely done, very thoughtful. So that's why I consider this one as one of the best books. And so far I think that Busted is my best work in Egyptian part. Here I also started from marker background, then I disliked it and I did it couple of tones darker. In the beginning it was much lighter yellow, then I went into more orange brown color, and I think that it looks better, especially with very vibrant dark blue color for her dress, skirt. So I think that it also was a good project. Now let's move forward. Yeah. This one I colored when I didn't have markers with me, so I had to do the whole background with pencils, and it wasn't a very good moment. But the whole look of this thief goddess, famous for her golden hair, I think that it's actually nice. Again, it was interesting to stay in limited color palette. I wanted to have many golden elements, like she's shining and has light halo around her, and only the callus and several green elements here together with her red dress. They they supported the main colors. I wanted to color hell during this Halloween, but as usual I didn't have time. Here we have winter picture with Scotty. First I colored everything with pencils, then I started to add acrylic paint on fur and on some of the landscape details, and in the end I sprinkled everything with white paint, but somehow it almost disappeared. Maybe I need to sprinkle it more to increase impression of falling snow. But I like her, I like how I did gray blue hair here, and it was interesting to color her shirt, probably nicely depicted by artist, and it was very interesting to color. This one I did last year for Easter, when I didn't have any other Easter pictures with me in the beginning of the war, but I had this book and I selected this Easter goddess, which actually gave the name to the holiday. It was also quite interesting to read the story. But again, because I didn't have markers for the background, it was difficult to do something around her head. So imperfections with blending, I tried to mask with those rings. Well, because the background has pastel colors, it doesn't bother me. But mostly I look at the beautiful flowers. It was interesting to color this basket, and she herself is very beautiful. I really love that girls, they have different facial expressions, slightly different hair, so it's not like they are copied from one page into another. Look at this one, it's soul, and again very interesting headpiece. It's like two parts of the crown, and of course I wanted to color it immediately. I decided that she will have ginger hair, and on each of the elements I tried to use a lot of yellow highlights, yellow reflections, and I even added some freckles on her cheeks and nose. Oh, it's one of my favorite books. I can talk about it for a long time, but I promise that next we will move quicker. And that's my last finished project, which I did this Halloween. The Coloriage, again interesting story, slightly crazy like many northern or Celtic myths, but still interesting. Here it was interesting to me again to do highlights on her dress from the fire and to show that she brewed some kind of magical potion. I was preoccupied about this background. It was dark but with some white areas, but then on the white areas I used markers in two colors, more lilac and more blue, and together they created nice magical looking but at the same time a relatively pastel background, so it doesn't distract attention from the goddess or from the magical cauldron. I think the next I will color either Morrigan, or I wanted to color for a long time poor Terpsichore. She's so lovely and she's surrounded such nice animals and flowers, so they will be my next projects. After Coco Vayo we will move to Jade Summer. From Jade Summer I have several books. The first of them is Art Nouveau, which is actually for me has nothing similar to Art Nouveau inside, but still pictures are interesting, intricate. Sometimes they are even too much detailed, too much intricate, and when you look at them you feel like you need to unravel some puzzle. That's why I colored only two pictures, But I intend to color here when I have time. It's not that I dislike this book, no, I love these designs, but they are not very easy. In many books I just can grab the book and to start color immediately. Here, no, I need to do careful color planning because many pictures here are like collages. Here I think that I used color pencils and markers. When you look here, so many lines are a little bit confusing, but some of the pictures are really nice. That's my favorite for now. My second finished project, it's again for Egyptian theme. You know that I love everything about it, just like I love everything about history and mythology. So I did this interesting goddess dancing with a snake. I remember that it wasn't very easy to select colors for the snake. It was my last element and I already had goddess. I had very active colors on the landscapes, so I barely selected this olive green, ochre and dark green colors for the snake. Well, I don't know, but I hope that at least the snake isn't completely lost. But I love blue color on the goddess. It really helps her to stay against a dark blue background. I'm not a big fan of faces here, but some are really nice. I love this one, more like Japanese style, probably warrior lady. But many are a little bit confusing. So as I said, you have to do very careful planning if you want to get beautiful result. Some of them have this steampunk vibe, so it's interesting collages, interesting masses, but definitely it's not Art Nouveau, at least for me. I also have another very rare book from Jade Summer, the same thing. Before Jade Summer disappeared completely, this book also was unavailable for a long time, but I like it because it also was created by very talented artist, and it has 2 copies of portraits of northern gods. Well, when I started it, I totally didn't know how to work on this paper, so it was difficult for me. I didn't have a decent set of markers, so I had to do everything with pencils only, and it also was discouraging. And I was so unhappy with my first couple of pictures. Here and here I tried to use acrylic paint here, but somehow all acrylic, maybe because of the black background, everything looked quite dull. Even if here I do love the main image, a landscape behind was terrible. So I started to experiment with other materials, and I don't know why I decided that I can apply a light layer of watercolor. Indeed, I tried to apply it here to make the bright sky, but of course the whole paper, it started to buckle terribly, and my other bad decision was to iron it. Usually I iron pages in all my coloring books if I need, but here I totally forgot about this black paint. It was my first book with actually with such black background, so I totally didn't thought that when I iron all the black paint, you can see that it stick to this page. I barely managed to divide them, and all this black paint, when it was hot, it made dirty the next page. From here it stick, that's why this page it looks dirty, because all this black paint it actually stick here. Of course I was shocked first, but then I realized that I wasn't very happy with all these 3 pictures, and finally I realized why we have 2 sets of pictures. So if I start to color in this book again, and I intend to do so because pictures, they are amazing as I said, I will simply start from the second set. Now when I have markers, I hope that all my pictures, they will be much better. And look at these very interesting designs. Faces are nice and characters are quite instructive. At least I don't have anything else, anything similar in my other books, so book is gemstone, but I just need a small push to return to it after the first unhappy interaction with it. When I think that I can start once again, it's really a good thought. And finally, I have a huge and very thick collection of Jade Summer designs about mermaids, fairies, vampires and dragons. When I just got the book, I thought that vampires will be my favorite part. But fun thing is, so far I did 3 projects about fairies, which in the beginning I totally disliked, because I don't like their faces. They look very childish, cartoonish. And I did 1 picture in dragons. Book is good. I don't know if it's available because I don't follow Jade Summer, but this collection is really interesting. Let me show you quickly my works here. That's some Asian style dragon. If you look at the temple here, that's definitely Asian style. I used Prismacolor pencils, then some golden gel pen to make my dragon more shiny. Of course, now when I have better selection of markers, I would color mostly with markers here. And now my pictures in part about tiny fairies. Here I have probably my best work here, at least I really happy how I did it. I imagined here that we have the story how 2 tiny fairies try to liberate their friend, this beautiful warrior bird. Maybe it was somewhere in the ice prison and they start to free it, help to make it free. So it was fun to imagine some kind of story and to color it also. Where I had some imperfections on the background, I always sprinkle it with some paint to imitate like maybe snow is falling. So even on this paper I think that it's possible to color, just with not as much pleasure as you can do on normal paper. Another one where I try to show that goddess of spring, try to make winter disappear. So behind we have winter. I added some of those winter trees covered by snow. I added a little bit of falling snow, but in front of her we already have green grass and flowers, and I also did her dress in matching green color. The most fun thing here is the face of the reindeer. He looked very strange. I slightly masked that part which I didn't like, but it looked very humanized, more like human face. I don't know how to explain, but the owl was drawn beautifully, and here the fairy looks quite nice. I used a lot of acrylic paint here and acrylic gouache also. And finally this one where I simply wanted to do something in with unusual color combos. I don't use this mint blue or green blue very frequently, but here I decided that I can do some kind of crazy forest, and that's how I finished it. Nothing special, but for me it was some kind of color therapy. And finally we move to the Krug. They are really quite interesting. They found their niche of these dark books, and I think that it actually was quite interesting idea, because I love to change from one subject into another. I can't color everyday flowers or sweet kittens or bunnies. Sometimes you really want to change into totally different subject, and even if we don't know the artist behind their books, I would say that he or she is really very talented, because their art is really nice. Yes, paper as usual is very average, but I think that it's also possible to color here. For now I have three books. For me it's totally enough. And again, these books, they help me to step out of my comfort zone, to try and to make my pictures maybe less colorful as I usually do, to use maybe more unusual color combos, and to use my markers more frequently, which is also a good thing. So here we have, I webbed and webbed until red is all there's left. I love these small titles. It helps you to have the initial push, initial idea what has happened on the image, and maybe to start thinking about colors, about story behind the picture. So I did this red roses as a main focal point here, and I deliberately wanted contrast on the girl with this very light pastel veil. I would love to make it more transparent, but I simply didn't know how to do it. Now maybe I would try to make her dress visible, but I still think that as the flowers and her face are more important details, it's okay that I didn't do very good work on the veil. Also, the thing which is difficult for me is how to incorporate all those strange lines and swirls into main image, and we have them on many designs. It's also a little bit confusing. Here I love her face, I love her crown, and I love those roses which look slightly aggressive because of their red-black color. I'll leave you a link to this video, so maybe you will find something interesting there. And my second was this everything here is dead. And indeed I used this idea. I tried to show this moment when totally alive, warm body, here she has normal fair skin tone, started to change color into something dead. I use this gray, lavender, gray and blue colors to show the dead part of the body, almost corpse. And even for the flowers and leaves I tried to select more unusual colors. Interesting, really interesting. Helps you to think totally different when you select colors. You know that I tend to color in more realistic way, but here, even such small unusual details, I feel like I did something new for me. That's why I appreciate these books. I also love this interesting version of Dark Fairy Tales. Nice book, and I intend to continue here, of course. Pictures here, they are relatively simple, so you can finish them in quick time, especially if you use markers. For now, I did a couple of pictures here in Beauty and the Beast. With pencils, I would spend probably several hours doing all those boring roots, but with markers I did all those roots and branches in just 10 minutes, and yeah, it was really very helpful. So that's why I say that markers are big helpers here, and main heroes are made with polychromos. Another one, in similar way, marker background and then polychromos for the heroes. Yes, I have two pictures in mermaid. Again, it's interesting, this slightly darker vibe which we have from this picture. Even fishes, they are not very kind looking, and I deliberately try to stay in this blue aqua green colors with only couple of bright elements, the magical potion and her blood here on the knife and their eyes. I think that it was a good idea, so I do love the color palette which I used here. And another one also with slightly menacing look here, when we have the happy couple, and then we have the mermaid which started to turn from alive into mermaid again. So I try to add more scales already on her legs and more blue color to the tips of her hairs. So that was my decision how to show that she started to turn back into mermaid. And those semi-transparent hair and hands of her sisters who push her And I hope that her knife is nicely visible, because it really helps to show the story here. Well, I think that it's all, but yeah, book is good, so I definitely need to color it. I even don't mind to color all these pictures with reds, really. Somehow this book is very easy for me to color, but among the Crook book, my favorite is Dark Queen and King. This one I definitely can recommend. Yes, they are slightly creepy. On each of the portraits we have this slightly creepy element, but at the same time, if you don't like it, I think that you can perfectly well mask such elements. For now, I have this Winter King. Again, markers for everything behind him, polychromos pencils here. I love to color such kind of costumes, historical costumes with different textures, so for me it was a big pleasure. And then acrylic paint helped me to make fur on his coat better visible. Then I have this Egyptian pharaoh, probably warrior. Again, it was interesting to color gold. Those columns I did with markers, so I don't know what to explain. All these videos, they are on my channel, and if you share my love to Crook, I know it's not a very frequent thing, but for me these books, they are good. I don't know which version do I prefer. This one I purchased with white paper, and it's easier to color, but when I look here, I dislike that here I have stains, so it's a double. It has some advantages and disadvantages. When I color, of course, it's easy, when you don't need to wait until the paper is dry and black disappear, but later when you look at finished pictures, those stains on the left, they bother me a little bit. Next I have this Julius Caesar. Yes, he also looks a little bit creepy if you look here, the wound and then eyes, but I tried to mask it a little bit, and it was totally possible to cover it completely, so if you don't like this creepy vibe, you can mask such details on your pictures. Maybe for the next project I will do such things. But look at this beauty, she's really so interesting. And finally I have Egyptian sorceress, probably. I did very quick work on hieroglyphs here, again with markers, but mostly of course I was interested in her headpiece. So nicely done. It was really a big pleasure to color it. I need to return to this book. I will try to return to it somewhere in January after all this madness with Christmas pictures. Next, in the series of beautiful ladies and gentlemen, I have books by Chris Artega. I collected all 3 volumes, and I am extremely happy that I have all 3 books by her. Even if I don't color here more frequently, I intend to do so. Now when I finish the book by Selina Fenech, I hope that Chris Artega will be my main book in the same style. Paper, yes, paper definitely is of very average quality, but so far, again, by combining markers and softer and harder pencils, I managed to do several works, so I just think that I need to be more creative in combining various media. Here I have my forest elf, probably, markers and even Star Joy gold pencils, and then polychromos and color softs, surprisingly, for the lady herself. Here I'm actually proud how I did skin. As usual on camera, maybe it's not visible, but it has nice shading, very warm skin tone with a little bit of yellow reflections. So here I think that for me skin is good. And then I have another quite powerful picture which I also really enjoyed to color. This lady, warrior lady. I think that it was called It's All by the Sword or something like this. And it was interesting to find colors for all the intricate decorations for her armor. I decided that I can combine both golden and silver and even dark steel elements. And I think that in the same time she looks quite fierce, quite brave, and quite regal in all these decorations. Background, it's pencils and markers, so it's a mess of various media, but I think that it's matching the main color palette. And the only one picture which I have here, it's in second volume. The third I hadn't touched yet. In second volume I have beautiful couple here. It's Stolen Glances. I think that I need to finish this video because I start to forget words. Anyway, again, polychromos pencils helped me here, but also some Prismacolors for lighter shades of her dress together with markers. Markers actually are big lifesavers here. They both are beautiful. I love their faces. That's why I love Chris Ortega. Faces are really nicely done. And many interesting details on her dress. Maybe they are on Venice Masquerade, if you look at his mask. It's similar to Venice style masks. I decided to do this dramatic wine red curtains as a good contrast to their costumes. I think that I nicely done a white dress and white shirt of him, and I added all those reflections from the candle, so it was interesting to calculate all those shadows, reflections, and I think that color palette is quite pleasant. It reminds me how much I enjoy doing it, so even despite the paper, I can recommend these books, and Chris Ortega, she's very talented. Maybe if you can print, you can purchase them as PDF on better paper, but I love to have my books and just look, they are so lovely as a group. They are also very pleasant to touch. For me it's also important. And finally, I want to include in this video this beauty, which sadly I hadn't started yet. So it's kind of a reminder for myself that I have these gods and goddesses. It's beautiful but unusual for me. Again, paper is bright white but thin. I'm not sure which media I can use here. Again, if I use markers, then here I will have those colorful stains. It's not a bad thing, but still somehow those colorful stains, they distract me from the main image. So I'm not sure, but with pencils to do this background, it's also not the best thing. But the book is really very detailed, very beautiful. Here we have mostly Greek mythology, but very thoroughly depicted, even with many secondary heroes. There are no duplicates, so many beautiful images to color. First, I thought that they look a little bit strange because it's a mix of Greek mythology with some Asian comics vibe, and first I was thinking that maybe it's not a good thing, but then I realized that mostly they have beautiful faces, so I don't mind. Well guys, I just need some push to start coloring here, and I need more free time. That's my biggest problem. So many beautiful books, not enough time, and maybe sometimes I just want to stay in my comfort zone when I color in the books where I already know paper, I already have my favorite color combos. Sometimes it's just comforting to start a new book from the new artist on the new paper. It requires some mental efforts and sometimes I'm just not ready to it. But I hope that maybe Very soon I will start to color in this beauty. Who is the artist? Josh Lee. Yes, I know that he has a lot of beautiful books. I selected this one and I think that for me it's the most beautiful. But other books are also really nice, so if I manage to get used to this paper, maybe I will look at his other books. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this video, because here I included several of my most favorite books, most favorite artists, and I will try to keep them closer to my working table, because that's the books where I want to color more frequently. Thank you, and I will see you very soon in the next series.